Hey guys, it's Kesara, and today I'm going to be doing my January 2022 reading wrap up. Alright, so I am switching up my approach to booktube. Around like the second week of January, I was about to film my review for Jade Legacy by Fonda Lee. I just didn't like the video. Mind you, love the book, great book, highly recommend, but I didn't want to talk about what I was talking about in that video. There were other things I wanted to talk about, but because I was trying to film it spoiler free, I was just not interested in the content, especially considering I just finished filming the vlog that had already posted onto my channel. So I felt like I was just talking about the same thing again in that video. While I was gonna have like a spoilery section, I kind of just wanted to do a full spoilery review. It just made me reevaluate the type of content that I'm putting on my channel, because if I'm not interested in the content that I'm putting out, how can I expect you guys to be interested in it? So I've decided to kind of switch up my approach to booktube, because my approach largely hasn't changed at all since I launched this channel back in 2018. I was using this approach like all through 2019 and 2020 when my channel was actually doing quite well. I feel like I just regurgitate a lot of the same information in different videos and in different ways. I'll have like my reading vlog, I'll have a spoiler-free review, and then I'll just talk about the same thing again in my wrap-up. And I just feel like it's too much of the same thing. So I want to switch it up a little bit. I had kind of decided not to do any more spoiler-free reviews, but I really like my vlogs. I like the style of my vlogs, so instead I am still gonna do spoiler-free reviews, but vlog style, and I'm gonna do them very short. So throughout the month, instead of doing like weekly vlogs, I'll do what I would do for a weekly vlog, just in shorter videos. I won't have like a set schedule for those videos, but like just whenever I finish a book, film just like a quick 1-minute review on my thoughts on that book, and that'll be like my spoiler-free section. Of course, I'll talk about it in my wrap-up too, so like you can get that in the wrap-up, and I'll probably go a little bit more in depth into each book in the wrap-up rather than those shorter ones. But I feel like, one, shorts is a thing that I kind of want to experiment with on YouTube, and I think it'll be more interesting to see how that comes out than rather my vlogs, which most people don't watch my vlogs, though they're the most commented type of content that I get, that people actually like seeing it. I kind of still be doing my vlogs, but kind of in a different format. And then one of the biggest types of videos last year that I tried to post and didn't get around to posting was my monthly wrap-ups. I still want to do my monthly wrap-ups. I think doing a monthly wrap-up is a lot of fun. I also think trying to get it all done at the end of the month is really, really difficult. I'm gonna start filming them throughout the month, so they're gonna kind of look like a monthly sort of like reading vlog, but like as a wrap-up rather than one time at the end of the month I'm gonna talk about it. So I don't know, this sounds kind of weird when I talk about it this way. It's just in the background, I'm changing up my approach to how I film videos in addition to the type of content that I'm actually going to be putting out. That's kind of what you guys are going to see in the next couple of months. It's definitely going to be very much of an experiment, so feel free to let me know what you guys think on how that's going to look. I am going to be replacing like my single book reviews and my weekly reading vlogs with more spoilery type of reading vlogs, which I'll talk about at the intro of all those videos, so you guys will know if I'm going to go into spoilers in that video. So obviously in this video, this is a wrap up, so I'm not going to go into spoilers in this one, but I feel like that is something that maybe I'm a little bit more interested in, and we'll see. Maybe other people are interested in it too, and I just don't know. For this video though, I kind of have it half in the new format and half in kind of like my old format. So this is going to be kind of a weird video, and you may see some clips that you have seen in some of the other videos just because they fit into the format of this video. If you've seen them, I'm sorry, feel free to skip ahead to the next clip, but this intro has gone on long enough. So let's go ahead and get into my January wrap up. So in the month of January, I ended up reading 11 books on a TBR of 8. So I think that's pretty good, but I only read 2 books actually from that TBR, though I do still have 4 of them in progress, but there are 2 books from that TBR that I didn't get to. I'm a little saddened by that, but I will be getting to those books probably over the next couple of months. I read a total of 3,847 pages for an average page count of 349, which is quite a bit lower than I typically have in a given month, but I read a lot of smaller books this month. This is also going to be the busiest month I have all years. So that just makes me excited for the rest of the year. The longest book that I read this month was Jade Legacy by Fonda Lee, which was 713 pages. And the shortest book that I read this month was Saga issue 55 by Brian K. Vaughan and Fiona Staples, which came in at 47 pages. Out of all of these books, my average rating ended up being 4.1 stars, which I'm pretty happy with. Anything over 4 stars, I think, is a good average. I'm pretty happy with the books that I read this month. So we're gonna get into those books. We're gonna start off with the book that I rated the lowest and work my way up to my highest rated. So I was just in a very graphic novel mood, which made me pick up The Tea Dragon Tapestry by Kay O'Neill. I had actually picked this up before a month ago and I read like the first 2 parts, kind of forgot to go back to it. I still was able to get it on Hoopla again. I picked it up and like continued and finished it. I think the artwork is absolutely beautiful and it's just a fun, wholesome novel. I like tea, I like dragons. What is not to love about this series? Personally though, I didn't connect with the story at all, like any of them in this series, but even so, it's still a pleasurable reading experience because of the world building and just the beautiful artwork. Even though I didn't connect with the story, I still really enjoyed this, so I ended up giving it 3 stars. Okay, so I finished Crush by Tracy Wolff, and I think I'm officially hooked on this series because I really liked it. Not that it's like the best ever, but I just like it in like a guilty pleasure sort of way. It was so much fun to read. I just want to pick up the next book. I absolutely love where this book is going. Mind you, it's super predictable. Like, I'm pretty sure I know what's gonna happen in the next book. Like, it's pretty obvious, but yet I still really want to read it. So super excited for the next book in the series, and this one really surprised me. I liked it a lot more than I was expecting, so I ended up giving it 4 stars. Honestly, I have no idea how I gave Crush 4 stars. Like, I'm changing that now. No more than 3.75 stars for Crush. I do think it's my favorite in the series so far, but still, like, I was just, I don't know, right when I finished it, I was still kind of like on the high of like, this is a really great cliffhanger. No, 3.75 stars. But I did also finish Covet by Tracy Wolff, which is the 3rd book in this series. And like I said, Crush, which is the 2nd book, is probably my favorite so far. I didn't like Covet as much. I think part of it was just there wasn't a relationship dynamic that worked really, really well in Crush that I was excited to see how it would turn out in Covet. And while it was there in Covet, there wasn't as much tension in that relationship as there was in the previous book. So I think because of that, I didn't enjoy Covet that much. Now the ending, I think, is a lot better. The ending is really heartbreaking, but not really. The ending's good. Like, I enjoyed the ending. I think the author did a really good job on the ending. I will say this series in general is just super, super predictable. Like, I'm pretty sure I know where all of the relationships are going. I'm not sure exactly where the plot is going, but that's not what the series is about. I mean, there is a plot, but the series is really more of a romance. It's about the relationships. I'm pretty sure I know where the relationships are going, but I'm excited to see it happen. Like, I'm really excited to see it happen. So I definitely will be picking up the next book in the series. I'm excited for it, but it's not like one of my favorite series of all time. I think the 3rd book was good, but it wasn't great. So I ended up giving it 3.5 stars. So I completely randomly decided to pick up The Tales of Beetle the Bod by J.K. Rowling. I did not really know what to expect going into this. It was just 3 stories, short stories that obviously are set in the Wizarding world. I honestly expected it to be better than it was. First 2 stories I really didn't care about at all. Like, I had 0 opinion of them. I mean, they were fine. The thing I liked the most about it was the commentary on it, because you have Dumbledore's commentary on it and you have Rowling's commentary on Dumbledore's commentary, which is interesting. I actually really enjoyed that aspect of it. I was leaning towards like a 3 to 3.5 star, but the last story is the one that everyone knows, which is The Tale of the Three Brothers, but I don't know what it is about that one. I just really, really love that one. Not even attached to the Harry Potter series at all. Just that story alone, I think, is such a like well thought out like short story, and I just really like it. So because of that, I bumped it up to 4 stars, but overall, it was neither here nor there for me. The audiobook is really good. Like, there are sounds and stuff like that in the audiobook, and I think all the audiobook narrators did a really good job. But personally, I don't love sounds in my audiobooks. They actually kind of annoy me. I like my audiobooks to be a little bit more plain, so they kind of just distracted me. Overall, I did like it, but the only thing that really made me love it was The Tale of the Three Brothers, of course. So next, I'm going to be talking about Sunreach and Read On by Brandon Sanderson. So these are 2 novellas that take place in the Skyward universe that are set between the 2nd and 3rd books. Because I've seen other people talk about these and explain that like a lot of the plot that happens in these books are really important to the 3rd book, I decided to read these before reading Cytonic, which is part of the reason why I didn't finish Cytonic in January, but I did end up finishing these instead. I actually am so glad that I read these, just because one of my biggest complaints about the second book in the series, Starsight, was that we go to this separate area in which there are all these new side characters and we never get to go back and see the old side characters, which is also what's going to be happening in Cytonic, by the way. We go to a completely new area. We're not really going to get to see these old side characters, at least as much as we did, like, say, in the first and second novels. So Sunrage and Redon, we get to see kind of what happens to those characters while the other main part of the story is going on. So I liked reading those because of that, and also because I think the plot is actually quite significant, that we understand what's happening in the background as opposed to just what Spence is doing. So I really enjoyed reading both of these, and I ended up giving them 4 stars. I do kind of just wish they were incorporated into the regular series rather than as separate novels. I think it would have been kind of interesting to see like multiple points of view in just like the overall series rather than like having to read these novellas on the side. I think I would have been more annoyed if I had actually bought these, but I just borrowed them from my library because they were available at my library. But if I had to buy them for whatever reason, I think I would have been a lot more annoyed, because I do think they should be required reading material for the actual series if you kind of like want to understand what's going on in Cytonic. So I enjoyed these a lot. I loved all of the side characters. I loved like the colony of doom slugs in Sunreach, so that was fantastic. I enjoyed these, and if you're gonna read this series, would highly recommend reading these novellas as well. I've already borrowed Evershore from my library as well, so once I finish Cytonic, I will be reading the next novella in this series. So overall, I'm really glad that I read these and would definitely recommend it to anyone else reading this series. So the next book that I'm going to talk about is Saga issue number 55 by Brian K. Vaughan and Fiona Staples. I actually posted a really short review on this one right after I finished reading it. I absolutely love the Saga series, by the way. If you guys haven't read the Saga series, highly recommend it. It's a series of graphic novels that kind of spans the gap between sci-fi and fantasy, and it's like kind of interesting the way that they do it, because they have like these 2 factions, one that's like really technology based and then one that's more like fantasy and magic based, which I think is really cool, and they're like obviously at war with each other. They also have these 2 factions called the Wings and the Horns, who do not get along at all, and this series is following a little girl whose mother is part of the faction of the Wings and her father is part of the Horns. So she doesn't really fit into the world that she lives in, because she doesn't really fit into either of those factions, which I just love the dynamic there. I love everything about the world building. The artwork is so beautiful. It's super bright and just fun to read. I just like all like the little side characters and stuff too, so I've been waiting for this issue to come out for the longest while. Now, there is something that I don't love about it, just because I wish it had handled the cliffhanger at the end of the last one a little bit more. It just was kind of a thing where like it didn't even like seem like that happened. Like it seemed like it was just completely over. Like obviously the cliffhanger happened, but it wasn't really dealt with. The book didn't really go into like what happened afterwards. It was just like 3 years later, this is what's happening right now. It didn't really handle that cliffhanger at all. I'm hoping that the next 2 issues that come out, which are coming out I believe in March and April, kind of give us some background into what happened right after that. But yeah, I'm a little disappointed by that, but I am still just super excited to be back in this world. I love this world so much, and I'm really excited to see what more of these authors come out. So really excited that Saga finally came out. I really enjoyed it, and I ended up giving it 4 stars. Sunday, January 9th, and I did manage to finish Where the Drowned Girls Are by Shauna McGuire. I actually enjoyed this a lot more than I was expecting to. This is the 7th book in the Wayward Children series, which is a series of novellas following like these children that get sent to other worlds. So it's one of my favorite tropes, being that it's multiple worlds, but it's a series of novellas, which I kind of hate novellas. So some of these I really like, because I really like the world that they're in, and I like the logic of the world, and I like the world building. And then other ones I don't really care for that much. So for example, In an Absent Dream, I absolutely loved, which was the 4th book, but Across the Green Grass Fields, which was the 6th book, which is the most recent one before Where the Drowned Girls Go, I really didn't care for it all. But I actually really like this one. I would say it's like my 3rd or 4th favorite, so not the best of the series, but I liked the world in this one. It was set in kind of our world, so there are multiple different worlds and then there's our world, but instead of the regular Wayward Children's school, it was set in a different school, which I found incredibly fascinating. I really love the world building in this one, but that's honestly pretty much the only thing I enjoyed about it. I enjoyed it a lot though, so I ended up giving it 4.25 stars. In the beginning, actually, it was giving me kind of Harry Potter vibes, but then it takes like a weird turn where the school is concerned, so like that was like for a very short amount of time, but I still really like the world building and all of that aspect of it, so I still really like this one a lot more than I was expecting to. I just finished The Bone-Shard Emperor by Andrea Stewart. I really enjoyed this a lot more than I was expecting. A lot of people seem to enjoy this one more than the previous one, and I think in finishing most of this novel, I enjoyed it a lot more than the previous one. I actually got into this one a lot more. I do really love the audiobook narrators, so maybe that's why also, but I enjoyed the plot of this one. I enjoyed the action. The ending, I wasn't fully expecting. I was a little bit expecting it just because I'd seen some people's like spoiler-free reviews of it that mentioned like there was action at the end. From reading the book itself, I wasn't really expecting that, and like just from the series in general, I wasn't really expecting the ending. Really enjoyed all the action at the end. There's one thing I really hated about this novel and just frustrated me to no end, and that was the romance. Oh my gosh, I absolutely hated the romance. I mean, I didn't feel the romance. I hated the way the romance was done. I didn't like the two characters together. Like, I didn't like anything about this romance. So because of that, I can't give this as high of a rating as I want it to be. I still think I'm being a little bit generous, giving it a 4.25 stars, but I couldn't give it less than The Bone Shard Daughter, which is the first book in the series, which I also gave 4.25 stars because I did like it more than that, but I just hated the romance so much. So that annoys me, but I'm really excited to see where the series is gonna go because I really enjoyed this second novel in the series. So I cannot wait to read the third one, which I think is coming out later this year, which should be great. I absolutely love the world building, by the way. The world building in this book is fantastic. I mean, it's not like super in depth, but it's creative, and I really like that. Definitely really enjoyed this. Not one of my new favorite series of all time or anything, but still a really entertaining read that I would recommend to most fantasy readers. So the next book that I want to talk about is Atomic Habits by James Clear. So this book I actually picked up on a complete whim. I had just finished The Bone Shard Emperor, and between Jade Legacy and The Bone Shard Emperor, I was kind of like on a reading high, but I didn't really want to pick up any more fantasy for a little bit just because I kind of wanted to soak those two books in. So I decided to pick up this because I just got it off of hold from my library. I picked up the audiobook and I finished the audiobook that same day. It takes all of like the ideas and theory behind The Power of Habit by Charles Duhigg, which I think I read in either late 2019 or early 2020 and really enjoyed because it talked about like the theory of habits and how habits work for you or against you. And this takes all of those theories and kind of gives you a roadmap on how to build new habits. And it's just done in such a clear and concise way that's entertaining that I just enjoyed every second of this. So that's why I decided to buy the book, because I just really wanted to have a copy of this book because it's definitely a book that I think I can go back to and reference multiple times. And it got me so motivated to be more productive. I have been so much more productive, not necessarily in YouTube things, but in general after reading this book. So it's actually helped me quite a lot. And because of that, I ended up giving it 5 stars. Absolutely love this. And it also inspired me to make that top 5 self-help books. I'm really excited to have this book and to reference it over and over again. I probably will read it again before the end of the year just because the practices and stuff that it gives, I think is super helpful, but would highly recommend this if you are interested in forming new habits or anything like that. Really great book. And lastly, we have to talk about Jade Legacy by Fonda Lee. I absolutely love this book. It was the first book that I picked up this month, and it was the one that I loved the absolute most. I loved every second of this book. I know I've talked about this book so much in like the past few weeks, but it was by far the favorite book that I've read in a long time. Is it a perfect book? By no means. There are definitely things about it that I don't love, but overall, I do absolutely love this book. So this book is the third and final book in the Greenbone Saga by Fonda Lee, which is a series following a family who leads a clan of Greenbone warriors. So basically, Greenbone warriors are these warriors that they carry Jade with them, and Jade grants them like special abilities, specifically when it comes to like physical strength and things like that. I kind of wish the series explained that side of the world building a little bit more, because I feel like we did get a little bit more of that in Jade Legacy. Like we get to see kind of like how their training works and stuff like that. It doesn't go into a lot of detail about it, and the parts that it does go into detail about, I enjoyed a lot. So I enjoyed that aspect of it, but I kind of wanted more from the series when it came to that. And when I say it follows a family, it follows mainly a group of siblings, but then also one of their cousins. And then in this book in particular, we get to follow the kids, which is a lot of fun. I like getting to know the next generation and just kind of like the future of where this might be going. So I really enjoyed that aspect of it. I also really enjoyed just kind of like seeing the long-term political changes that happen in this world and how this family kind of maneuvers that was really intriguing to me. So I love this so much. Such a great like dark urban fantasy novel. There are definitely morally ambiguous characters in here that I absolutely love. Honestly, I love pretty much all of the characters in this series. I don't fully love the relationships, especially when it comes to like romantic relationships. I really didn't like any of them except for one in particular, which is of course the one that doesn't last. But overall, this is a fantastic series that I would highly recommend. And this last book definitely did the series justice, so I ended up giving it 5 stars. So that's all I have for you guys. I hope you guys enjoyed watching. If you made it to the end of this video, you should go ahead and just hit that like button because it really helps me out. I post videos on Tuesdays and Saturdays, so consider subscribing. And if you'd like to be notified as soon as I upload, you can click that little bell icon. All social media links are in the description down below. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye!